Friends, on behalf of Paul, Christy, and Max, I'd like to welcome you today to Reese's celebration of life and homecoming to heaven. I know it means the world to Paul, Christy, and Max that you showed up this morning. My name is Sean Hyde. I'm a children's pastor here at Saddleback Church, and I, like many of you, have had the great privilege of being forever marked by Reese. In talking with Christy and Paul this week, we had some really sweet moments, and they had some time to share with me some incredible stories about just who Reese was. Many of us knew Reese in different ways. Maybe that was he was a buddy at school. Maybe he's a part of your family, a friend. However you knew Reese, we all know that he was a special kid, and he is a special kid. One of the stories that Christy and Paul shared with me, and there was this really neat family experience. Reese, and actually Max was getting ready to get baptized. This was several years back, and Max and Reese were talking, and Max said, "Man, I want to wait on you, Reese. I want to wait for you to get baptized so that we can do it together, And at that time came, and Reese and Max both were baptized as babies, and as were Christy and Paul as part of the church tradition that they grew up in, and. Reese and Max both knew, though, that it was time. This was a decision they were ready to make, and they wanted to make a public profession of their faith. And in good fashion, Reese reached out to his mom and dad and said, "Hey guys, I think you need to do this." And Christy's response was, "Well, we've already done it, buddy." And Reese said, "No, we're going to do this together as a family." Guys, that just shows how special Reese is. He loved his family with just a fierce love. And friends, he loves you with a fierce love. That's why we're here today. That's why you're here today. Guys, I like many of you, got the great privilege to come alongside Reese, helping to reinforce the strength and the resolve that was needed during the time that he was going through his battle by praying for him, while ultimately praying for total victory in his battle. Yeah, every part of the circumstances that have impacted Reese, though those circumstances were out of our control, they were in control by one who did not let any of the prayers that we prayed fall on deaf ears and go unanswered. Because the truth is, those prayers were heard. Our prayers for Reese's total victory over cancer have been answered. You see, guys, cancer did not win. Reese conquered death because Jesus conquered death for him, and he now shares in that victory right now at this very moment. Reese is alive. Reese is well. That's why we can say confidently that he is more than he was. And that's the theme of today. Is focus on who Reese is. Reese is here with us even now. The hard part in all this, guys, though, is that the answer to our prayers came in such a way that means that Reese's physical absence, his tangible presence, or his physical presence and his tangible presence, they have to be delayed for some time. And that makes all of this really, really hard. Guys, the truth is, I'm not happy to be here. None of us are happy to be here right now. It's a reminder for us of how closely that we coexist with the pain and brokenness in our life. Yet we are here, unified under one common banner, and that is that we miss Reese. And we also share under this common banner that Reese made a forever impact on our lives. So you're here today because in one way or another, in a big way or a small way, Reese made a mark in your life. Maybe it was through one of his signature acts of kindness. Maybe you were the kid that sat alone at lunch And Reese made it a point to let you know that you were seen and that you were known by coming and sitting next to you. Maybe you were having a tough day at school, and he was there to champion you and encourage you with a word. Maybe it was how he inspired each and every one of us to face difficulty with his many displays of Hulk-like courage, encouraging you to face your own unique circumstance with a resilience that was reinforced by hope placed in Jesus. And whatever way that's been, you're different because of Reese. Very rarely in life do we have the privilege to encounter a soul like Reese. Today we're going to celebrate a son, a brother, and a friend. Today we're going to see an example. We'll see an example of what an abundant life can look like. Today you're going to see Reese not as he was, but as he is. Though this leg of Reese's journey is complete, the next leg of his journey has only just begun. I'm going to ask Eric to come and pray for us.
Thanks, Sean. Paul, Christy, Max, I am so sorry. You have a hole in your soul that feels unfillable. And life hurts, but God does heal. And I want you to know that God loves you and He is with you every second. So my encouragement to you is that you hold on to each other, that you hold on to God, you hold on to precious memories, and you hold on to the hope of heaven, because you will see your son and your brother again. So you were asked earlier to write a word about Reese. If I was going to write a word, the word I would pick is faithful. And in your program, you actually see what one of Reese's anchor verses were in life. Joshua 1:9, which reads, "Have I not commanded you? Be strong and courageous. Do not be terrified. Do not be discouraged, for the Lord your God will be with you wherever you go." Now, if we hit the rewind button a little bit on that passage, Joshua had just lost his mentor. Moses had just lost his life. And now Joshua has to take on the mantle of leadership. Doesn't feel equipped at all, but he has to take on the mantle. And what does the command he get from the Lord? Be strong and be courageous. Don't be terrified. I am always with you. And so Joshua used that commandment and that strength to do amazing things and inspire lots of people, and even inspire a courageous boy fighting cancer. Because when Reese read those words, he thought, I can be strong. I can be courageous, but only because God is with me. And so I will walk. I will fight. I will go through anything that this cancer throws at me because God is with me, and He will give me the strength. And so my encouragement to you guys is that you think about that verse in your own life. Where do you need to be strong? Where do you need to be courageous? Where do you need to realize that God is with you? And because of that, you don't need to fear anything. Let's invite the Lord to be with us. God, we love you. We love Reese. And we cling to the hope of heaven. It is real. It is a place where there is no cancer, there is no fear. There is love and peace and joy. And there's your presence. So, Father, I ask that you fill this room with your presence right now. That you fill Paul and Christy and Max's heart with your presence right now. And God, we invite you here. We know you're here, and we're so grateful for that. May this celebration of service not only be a celebration of Reese, but a celebration that he was strong and courageous because he loved you. We do love you, Lord, and thank you again for being here. It's in Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Good morning, everyone. For those of you I haven't met, my name is Doug Calvet. I'm Chrissy's big brother and Reese's uncle, as he used to call me Tio Doug, and Max's godfather, and my brother from another mother, Paul. I stand before you today with a broken heart and conflicted emotions. Part of my heart is grieving, knowing that my kids and I won't be able to jump in my truck for a quick visit or to simply give Reese a kiss on his cheek. That poor kid, I was obsessed with his cheek since he was a baby. And what teenage boy wants his uncle kissing him? And although I knew that he grew reluctant as a teenager for those kisses, he'd always at least give me a couple smooches when I'd visit. And I'm forever grateful for those. But mostly I'm grieving because I know how much everyone in this room is going to miss Reese. There's another part of my heart that's relieved. I saw firsthand what Reese was going through. I'm relieved knowing that Reese has finally won his battle over cancer here on earth, and that he's now free to run and play and laugh in heaven forever. There's a big part of my heart that is thankful. I'm so thankful for my 15 years as Reese's uncle. This time allowed me to understand what a miracle Reese is. And I'm especially thankful my two kids, Carter and Sage, had the honor of being Reese's cousin, which brought about a special bond within our family that only all those cousins can appreciate. As my son Carter always said, "Dad, Reese is where the fun starts." Reese was always very tender and sweet. He ensured everyone around him, especially his cousins, had fun when they were together. Even through his multiple surgeries, chemo treatments, physical therapies, Reese found the strength and creativity to reinvent himself. He reinvented himself through activities where he could still be the ringleader and still get some fun started. Some of my fondest memories have been and always will be sitting around a holiday table with Reese and all the cousins, playing board games, watching him perform his magic, play with his slingshot, all of that was a little nerve-wracking. I loved going to the beach to fly his drone with him, admire his photos, which I'm sure everybody saw when they walked in, or enjoy one of the delicacies that his mom and he would whip up in the kitchen and serve on a platter that Reese would make in one of his woodworking endeavors. As the kids and I were driving up yesterday, they reminded me about one of our favorite food stories about Reese. Because as you could see from the tribute earlier, Reese was a foodie. Loved his food, loved to cook. Anyway, we went to a hot wings place, and Reese, being Reese, ordered the hottest of the hot wings. And we all warned him that it would not be the best choice. But to our amazement, that kid choked down every last wing right in front of us. And then he gave us that famous smirk. That was Reese. He never backed down from a challenge, although I'm sure he felt the repercussions the next day. But more than any of these emotions, my heart is full of, more than any of these emotions, my heart is full of pride The pride I received through the courage Reese displayed fighting cancer from the day he was diagnosed at 12, through the 7 surgeries he endured, the physical therapy to learn to walk again, and to fight through the pain of taking a simple breath. That young man displayed more courage in his pinky than I have in my entire body. So, I pledge to use Reese's battle as inspiration to help me become a better father, son, friend, and brother. Excuse me. So with that, I'd like to close with a devotional from Sarah Young's Jesus Calling from March 10th. It was the day Reese moved on to heaven. It was inspired by 1 Peter 1, 3 through 4. Sorry. You are mine for all time, and beyond time into eternity. No power can deny your inheritance in heaven. I want you to realize how utterly secure you are. Even if you falter as you journey through life, I will never let go of your hand. Knowing that your future is absolutely assured can free you to live abundantly today. I have prepared this day for you with the most tender concern and attention to detail. Instead of approaching the day as a blank page you need to fill up, try living it in a responsive mode, being on the lookout for all that I am doing. This sounds easy, but it requires a deep level of trust based on the knowledge that my way is perfect. Reese, I will love you forever.
Good morning. My name is Nick Bernthal, and I'm one of the surgeons who had the privilege and honor of taking care of Reese over the last 3 years. There's a conventional wisdom in medicine that tells us as doctors we have to remain a bit emotionally detached from our patients. My job, in essence, is to give advice, to be objective, to be scientific. I knew from the minute I met Reese that was out the window. I met Reese in a small little clinic room in Westwood. It was packed with Team Imhoff members. And I remember watching this young kid just come out of a shell over 20 minutes. And we talked, and it started looking down, and then it was a small smirk, and before the end of it, it was telling me all the things he needed to get back to doing, so I better hurry up and do my job. Over the next 3 years, I watched a kid display courage that is truly amazing, in the truest sense of the word. I watched a kid bounce back. I watched a kid push. I watched a kid drive. I watched a kid become what we as his doctors want to be, the force that pushes things forward. Jane Yanagawa, who's another one of his surgeons, and I talk a lot about Reese, and we were laughing the other day because in medicine, there's this split between the medicine doctors and the surgical doctors. And the medicine doctors like to talk about things, and they like to pontificate, and they like to really understand. The surgeons want to make progress. We just want to get things going. We want to solve this. And Jane and I decided that Reese was a better surgeon than both me and Jane. By the end of this thing, he was coming in, telling us what we needed to do, telling us to stop talking about it, to get it going. And it really was amazing to watch him turn into really filling our role in this process. It's not hard for anyone who knows Reese or this family to know where he got that. I can't stand up here without just taking a minute to talk about this group of 3 people who's sitting down in the front row and all the people who love them. I take care of a lot of kids who are going through tough situations. I have never seen a motor drive something like Christy. Her passion, her absolute commitment to live this and to drive forward, to look under every stone, is truly unbelievable. Paul, you kept this family together. I've seen it not happen this way, and as a dad, I get it, I admire you. You were the steadying hand for this group, and Christy's motor could only go because you were there to keep everything under control. And Max, you know that every single surgery, the last thing Reese would say, first thing he would say before, the last thing he'd say before and the first thing he'd say after is, I gotta get back to doing blank with Max. It was just what drove him. And when you think about what that gives someone, whether it was the drones or the food or the archery, it was never the thing. It was doing it with you. So with that, I think, like all of us, we try to figure out what we take as we move forward, what Reese is with us, what Reese is not lessons, but what he's gonna tell us going forward. And for me, it's easy. We would sit in meetings. Every week, we sit with 27 of us in the room who take care of kids with this disease, and we talk about what to do next for each one of our kids facing a challenge. And every single one of those meetings, everyone who didn't know Reese would say, don't do that. Don't put a kid through it. Don't do it. Don't push. You gotta slow down. And Jane and I would look at each other and say, they don't know Reese. That's just not an option. He's driving this ship, and our job is to keep fighting. And so for me, the thing I know I will hear Reese telling me with all of the other kids I take care of and going forward is to keep fighting this fight and to keep working to do better. I hear Reese talking to me when I have conversations with the kid who just got diagnosed this week. I hear Reese talking to me with the kid who's deciding to go through a surgery right now. He's talking to us as we make our decisions for all of these other children, and he's talking to us as we go to the FDA and we beg and we plead for new treatments to get approved for this disease. So for that, I carry him with me. He'll always be talking to me, and I really do love you guys, and thank you for including me.
Boy, talk about spiritual gifts in action. Kimberly, how do you do that? Unbelievable. I just wanted to take a moment to introduce myself for those that I haven't met. My name is Ian Britton. This is my beautiful wife, Katie. And it is a privilege to be here today. We wanted to thank the Imhoffs for the opportunity to be able to share a few memories and moments of your beloved son and an extraordinary life. You see, to know Reese is to love him. And buddy, you broke me down. I'm wearing Bronco colors today. Never been more proud to wear Bronco colors. We'd also like to thank our son Blake, because 11 years ago, you brought the Imhoff family into our life. Hall was Blake's first t-ball coach. We don't really think about it, but that simple suburban rite of passage of signing up for Little League Baseball brought us to our closest friends. We're forever grateful. We immediately fell in love with Imhoff family. It's an easy thing to do. And I'll never forget meeting Reese for the first time. At the mighty age of 4, he filled out his Yankee Little League uniform. Better than most. He has a sturdy frame that you guys can all appreciate. And he looked like a seasoned veteran out there. He looked like he had been doing squats for a couple of years. The way his legs were built. Like if a wind came up, his other teammates would be blown away. But Reese was sturdy. And his legs were like tree trunks. I love that image of him. Reese and Blake, our son, just immediately hit it off. Their old souls just spoke to each other. They learned baseball fundamentals, proper sportsmanship, how to read and write, all about playground politics, girls, camping, and even Jesus side by side. In fact, it was here at Saddleback Church that they shared their testimonies together under the guidance of Tom and Becky Downs. But the most valuable lesson that Reese taught Blake was delivered with such maturity, with such ease, and with such insight. And that is how to become a true friend. In fact, Reese defined what true friendship means for our entire family, just by the way he invested in each of us individually. It was one of his many gifts. He soon became a hero to our daughter Molly, by the way he just honored her. Every time he hopped in the car, Molly was the first one he acknowledged. He asked about her day, he asked questions. And I'll never forget Reese, helping Molly fill her plate when we'd gather for family dinner, and he'd take it over to the table and just care for her. That was what he did. And Reese never had to be the featured act. Such an amazing gift he had. He never had to be the featured act. And I loved watching him observe and serve others. He would just kind of sit back with that signature smirk that we've all come to know and love. And he would just listen. And it was like he knew something the rest of us didn't. And that took shape in so many departments of his life. I was asking Katie, I was telling her, I said, I'd love to hear some of the audio of his inner thoughts during those times. And as a Christian, I believe there's a distinct title for the rare few like Reese that lead others along life's path. They act as God's ambassadors here on earth. They're called angels. Make no mistake about it, Reese is an angel. The Bible is filled with images of God acting as a refiner in our lives. He refines us to the point where he could actually see his image in our own life. And in Reese's case, because of his maturity and spiritual gifts, Jesus' reflection is undeniable and quite real. Like Christ, Reese is a creator. He's a woodworker. He's a fisherman. He's articulate, truthful, the ultimate gift giver, an extraordinary host, and most importantly, so very real. And because of this, Reese's refinement at the hands of the silversmith, like God, happens so much quicker than most. So as Nick indicated, as we feel a huge hole with his absence on earth, the perfect destination of heaven is made so much more perfect because Reese Imhoff resides there. Katie and I have this image of Reese being part of the welcoming committee in heaven. He'll be taking on his signature role of playing host, telling us what to see, what food to check out, and he will certainly make our experience more complete as only Reese can. So Katie would like to touch on one particular spiritual gift that's at the core of Reese's identity and really separates him. So babe.
In typical Imhoff fashion, when Paul and Christy asked us to share our hearts with you today, they humbly requested that I relay the beast blessings that I've been recording since February 2016, when Reese's battle began. Even in their deepest pain and sorrow, they've asked that I share a message of hope and faith. They focus on giving to all of us rather than receiving. This perfectly represents and explains the source of Reese and his character. And as our son puts it, Reese speaks best with his actions. On day one of Reese's battle, our beloved small group immediately gathered in prayer for Reese and the Imhoffs. The wisdom shared in that moment shifted my perspective. In a storm, all you see is swirling debris. Sometimes the bigger picture is easier to see from the outside. It helps to have friends as outside eyes so that you can see clearly and cling to the blessings, not the debris. Since then, we started witnessing so many of the Imhoff's personal and intimate prayers come to life. Christy calls these God winks, and in Reese's honor, I call them beast blessings. And in the past 3+ years, from my finite point of view, I've witnessed and logged over 637 of them. And I know that there are countless more. Many are on display here today, as you may have seen, as evidence of how the Lord shows up even in the worst of times. In the past few weeks in prayer, I've been talking to Reese. And I've asked him to reveal what he would like me to say in this moment, and his response was quick, automatic, and said with that signature smirk, "Nah, you don't have to say anything about me." And that gave me my answer loud and clear. Beast blessing number 150. Reese is a humble giver. In fact, I wrote Reese a message about his unique spiritual gift of humility a year ago, almost to the day. So Reese, give me a minute to gush about you a bit and share parts of this letter and my admiration of you. Hi, Bud. As your wannabe Tia, I have felt compelled to deliver you a message whenever God has repeatedly placed it on my heart. One of the qualities I admire most about you, Reese, is your humble heart. Since you were a preschooler, I've had the privilege and pleasure of watching you put others first. Often my own children were the lucky recipients, so it's no wonder that you're so very special to me. But mostly, I enjoy watching you be a champion to the weak, an arm of support to the insecure, a safe place for the misunderstood, and a voice of protection for the hurting. Your method is simple, but remarkably profound. You see them. You manage to seek out the person in the room with the greatest need in that moment, and you provide the gift of recognition. That is one of your incredible God-given superpowers. Now, this is where the humble part comes in. I know that you may not see this as a big deal or as anything different from anyone else, but allow me to inform you, it is. Attention has been something you have given so beautifully, freely, and abundantly to those who desperately need it most. And that's been your affiliation with that word and its primary use. But there's also another side or purpose that you may not be used to as a recipient. It's not how you've used that tool in the past, but I want you to think about it for your future. Attention is not just created or used for those who desire to be seen. It is also given to those who are a light and for whom God wants to be seen. Recognition and attention are often given by the masses to those they admire, real-life, modern-day heroes. And whether you planned on it or not, Bud, you're one of them. And I think God did a pretty rad job of making that selection. So as you move forward into your healing and a life where the hardest parts are behind you, I want you to have a new perspective on attention. People will not be giving it to you because you're desired to be seen. They'll be giving it to you because You are what they want to see. Because God is seen in, through, and with you. I love you, Reese, more than tongue can tell. And I can see Reese's smirk and blushing cheeks right about now. The second whisper I heard in my soul was Reese asking us to acknowledge and praise his phenomenal family.
I want to start with you, Paul. You're the image of Christ on earth to me, brother. Your positive attitude, your encouragement of other people, even when you're at a low, just shows how spirit-filled you are. You are a light. I love you. Max. You have and will continue to honor your brother by the choices you make and the amazing effort and passion that you show in every area of your life, from your relationships to your faith, to your academics, to your athletic achievements. You're a leader. You channel Reese's spirit like no other. And we can't wait to see how God is going to work through you. But I caution you, better fasten your seatbelts, man, because he's going to blow you away. And we all get a front row seat.
Yes. Where is she? Julie. Noni. In meeting you, it became very clear where the origin of Reese's selfless and humble heart began. You give so generously of your time and your talents, just as Reese does, all without seeking recognition or praise. But we see you. And the peace you bring is supernatural. And thank you, and we love you. Oh, my Christy. Your number one goal has always been to provide a magical childhood for your boys. Sister, I cannot think of anything more magical than having you for a mom. You love harder than anyone, and a better advocate does not exist. It is undeniable that you taught Reese how to fight, but better yet, you taught him how to love. And we thank you for giving all of us the gift of Reese's love.
Well, to be an Imhoff is to be a Bronco fan. And so I'm glad to see we've got a few converts. My name is Joe Imhoff. Some of you may know me as Paul's brother, others, Uncle Joe. Reese calls me Tachi. No one ever thinks they'll be saying a final goodbye to a child. They seem too full of life and all the promise of things to come. Their future stretched out before them like a book waiting to be read. you don't expect to find yourself in a place like this on a day like today, to mark the end of a life that had hardly even started. But here we are, saying farewell to beautiful Reese long before his time, and that doesn't feel at all right. It just hurts. Cancer ripped a hole in the lives of everyone who loves Reese Imhoff. Cancer left us devastated and heartsick. Cancer robbed the world of someone who made a real difference to everyone he met, and who was destined for even greater things. There will always be a void in my heart, a void that someday I must come to accept, and with that, learn to trust that God will guide me to peace. However, his battle with cancer was only a small part of Reese's life. There's so much more. So I like to focus on and share what I know of Reese, of his character, of his heart, and of his true nature. Reese's favorite Bible verse: "Be strong and courageous. Do not be frightened. Do not be dismayed. For the Lord your God is with you wherever you go." It's Joshua 1:9. I know this passage took on special significance and gave Reese comfort during his treatments. And it reminds me now to trust in God and in his grace in these sad days. But I believe this passage has been a part of Reese long before his treatments. Over the years, I visited Reese as often as I could. When the boys were toddlers, we would play with cars or the train set. Max would painstakingly position the cars in a perfect little city scene with amazing patience and focus of one so young. Reese would introduce himself to the fun by knocking everything over, thereby initiating what we Imhoff boys like to call just a little good, clean fun. But what I found interesting is that Reese would wait for Max to play in the way Max enjoyed. Maybe it was Christy holding him back a little bit, but there was a profound respect there. And it was more evident when the boys started playing baseball. They proudly looked after each other and cheered each other on. We often played sports in the street in front of their house. And it was there that Reese introduced me to all of his friends, which happened to be somebody different every time I visited. Reese must have 50 close friends. It's incredible. I've seen his spirit expressed in the loving ways he plays with his cousins, and in his concern that anyone who wanted to join be involved and included. Reese grew up in a home of exceptional cooking, which frequently drew him back to the refrigerator after dinner. And I can't blame him. And that's when I would hear Christy proclaim, "Sorry, buddy, the kitchen's closed." However, Reese never feared a challenge. And whether it was learning to cook, and what better way to keep the kitchen open, building furniture, applying his fashion sense to his wardrobe or the design of the man cave, or learning to solve a Rubik's Cube in a matter of minutes, there was never any hesitation. And then there's his rather famous smile. Everything good, everything wholesome, everything pure about childhood is found in his smile. But there's more. A hint of mischief, a sense of self-confidence, and an unmistakable kindness. It's the kind of smirk smile that shouted elation from the depths of his soul, but displayed as if all that joy would be better expressed to the world in due measure. I saw it, as I'm sure many of you did as well. And it was brighter and more joyous even the last time I saw him, which was this past Thanksgiving, and we were together enjoying the beautiful California weather and some family time on a pontoon boat sailing around Balboa Island. My job was to meet Reese at the car and help him to the boat, which was through an alley and over some steps and then down a ramp, over a 2-foot harbor wall, and then on the dock to the boat. Well, he got out of the car, asked, "Which way to the boat?" And off he went. He never stopped to rest, never asked for help. In fact, he told me to get out of the way. He never mentioned any pain, just pure, joyful anticipation of spending time with his family. This is Reese at his core, about living Joshua 1:9. Not only in the face of his adversity, but in living life boldly, courageously, and confidently, trusting in the Lord. When my children were young, we used to share a short phrase, "Heart of a lion," to help them when they face challenging situations. For us, it was a simple reminder to be strong, to persevere through life's difficulties, to stay committed to your principles, to support your family and friends, and to trust God. As I was talking with my children regarding Reese, we all agreed that Reese has a true heart of a lion. You know, Reese is a remarkable young man who inspires me to be a better, stronger, and more loving person. And I'm so proud of Reese to be able to teach us about life through his journey here on earth. Reese's story is one of triumph, of sharing his light with confidence and courage, of being an example of true friendship, of God winks and small miracles, of struggles faced with unfailing strength, and of superhuman determination. And although we endure this time of great sorrow with the support of one another, I can picture Reese surrounded with unimaginable joy, rejoicing with his Father in heaven with a big smirk smile on his face. Reese, I love you, I miss you, and will hold you in my heart always.
He was holding on so tight, but why did we Thank you all for coming to celebrate my brother's extraordinary life. I'm Max, Reese's older brother by just 16 months. We loved to play sports, wrestle, and race each other all the time. We were always each other's yin and yang. For example, he would cook the meals, and I would eat them. He was the photographer, and at times, I was the subject. And in football, he was the linebacker, and I was the receiver. Even though we were opposites, we always got along. Well, most of the time. But one thing I will never argue about, he is the toughest person I know. My brother endured more physically and emotionally than anyone. He tackled 19 different chemotherapies. He persevered through 7 major surgeries and spent over 300 nights in the hospital. And there are too many stitches and biopsies to even count. He never complained about going because he wanted to get better. He learned to walk again, not just once, but twice, even without part of his pelvis. When it should have taken months to get out of bed, it only took Reese 13 days to walk in the hospital. Because he overcame all of these major milestones, Reese always made me feel confident to not worry about him and that he was going to be okay. As you know, Reese's favorite Bible verse is Joshua 1:9. Reese defined what it means to be strong and courageous. When doctors would tell him of the limitations, he would give that famous smirk and defy the odds. He never gave up or slowed down. He flipped off the face of death all the way until the end, until Jesus came down and said, "It's time to go." Even though Reese moved to heaven, it did not mean he didn't win this battle. My brother did nothing wrong to deserve this disease. But because of his battle, I will always use Reese to inspire me to be the best version of myself in honor of him. Every day, I will choose to maintain a healthy lifestyle, stay focused on what's important in life, stay strong when times are hard, and help others like Reese did, all in honor of him. After my brother moved to heaven, my mom was having an especially hard time. One night, she said out loud in her grief, "Why do bad things happen to good people?" I thought about this, and the next day, it came to me. Maybe bad people haven't fulfilled their purpose yet. Reese is an extraordinary person who fulfilled his purpose that God meant for him at the young age of 15. I believe he changed the course of this disease and had an impact on so many lives. Because of my brother, over $4.5 million was given to research this disease. New medications never used before were approved for Reese, and new protocols were developed. And even though this wasn't the purpose that we wanted, it was the one that the world needed. What kind of a person is so brave and strong that it makes his own brother feel that it's going to be okay for 3 solid years? What kind of a person still has fun and plans events for others when he is in pain? What kind of a person still takes an interest in everything you do when he lost everything he loved? That's my brother Reese, my hero. I miss and love you, bro.
Thank you all for joining us today to celebrate the life of our cherished son, Reese. As you can tell, we're simply overwhelmed by the outpouring of love you've shown us not only today, but to our family over these last 3 years. We are truly honored that you guys are here today. We are calling this a celebration today because Reese lived life to the fullest every single day. So we want to celebrate Reese by sharing a few stories, some that are going to make you cry, some that I hope will make you laugh. But most of all, we hope you walk away knowing exactly who Reese is. In fact, Reese loved fun colors, so we're wearing pink in his honor. And for us, Reese has been and always will be the heartbeat of our family. And we hope that today's celebration makes him proud. Reese entered this world with a knowing smile and an old soul. My wife Christy always described baby Reese as simply delicious. With his bright blue eyes, blonde curls, and layers of chubby rolls, he truly was the happiest baby ever. He exemplified peace at the earliest of age, always smiling, and as we know now, had an insatiable appetite. He was the kind of baby that lunged at you to give you kisses, would go to any stranger for a hug, and was the ultimate snuggler. Yeah, that's our boy. We always said that Reese was our own personal sleep aid, because if Christy or I couldn't sleep, we would go into his room and lay down, even if for a while, to just feel his peace, a habit that continued until just a few weeks ago. Now, at the time of our boys being born, it was quite popular back then to teach baby sign language. Most babies would learn just a handful of signs, but of course, Reese became so proficient that Christy can remember when people would stop her at the grocery store and actually think Reese was deaf because he was so good at sign language. Christy was warned, even by our pediatrician at his 2-year checkup, to stop teaching him sign language. It was going to delay him speaking. But it was at that very moment, to the pediatrician's amazement, Reese said to the doctor, "Is that your stethoscope? Are you going to listen to my heart?" That's a true story. That's a true story. And just recalling these stories absolutely warms our heart. But now as we reflect back to the youngest of ages, we realize that Reese was building some very special skills. He was rarely frustrated, and most importantly, already beginning to master connecting with others on a very different level. So now Reese is in kindergarten, charming his teachers with his ability to communicate, of course, connecting with his friends, and always attached to his big brother, Max. As proud parents looking back, we can say that Reese is just a cool kid. Popular, energetic, loved school and sports, and he was always surrounded by a crowd. Reese also had a great picker when it came to choosing his friends. Many of you are here today. A story that comes to mind that truly encompasses Reese at this young age relates to his dear friend, Charlie. Charlie is one of those kids that's just pure light. But Charlie also had a lot going on, some physical challenges. And when we went to Reese's parent-teacher conference that year, the teacher asked us if we directed Reese to look after Charlie. To which we replied, no, we didn't give any such direction. The teacher said that Reese would intently watch the clock and get up without asking permission and go get Charlie's desk set up. He would get the block for his friend's legs, he would get his writing instruments, pull out his chair, and then come back to circle time. This is Reese. He was always looking for ways to help his friends, and it was here that his empathetic heart was born. It's just who he is. Now I have to mention, and it's been mentioned before, that even at the age of 6, Reese was built like a linebacker. He was always one of the bigger kids, and definitely one of the most stout. At recess one day, while playing football, a much bigger kid decided that his buddy Charlie wasn't going to play. Charlie shared this horrible news with Reese, and Reese in turn approached this kid, who was at least a head taller than him, and said, "Charlie is playing, and it's not an option." This kid then leaned over Reese, who was about a head taller than him, and pointed his finger down at him and said, this wasn't happening. Reese wisely then slowly turned around to Charlie and said, hey, buddy, I think we're going to let this one go today. Okay? You got to know when to walk away. That night when Reese told us the story, we were relieved a fight didn't break out, although I probably would have been okay with that. And we cracked up laughing and said, good choice, Reese, good choice. But it was here that the protector was born. As early as kindergarten, Reese was protecting those that needed it most. He saw the goodness in everyone. And he was an equally recipient of these friendships. Fast forward a few years later, and our dear friend Cade suffered a stroke at just 4 years old. And it was our boys who had the privilege of being Cade's first visitor in the hospital. And as Christy drove them to the hospital, she was trying to prepare them for what they might see. She shared, your friend can't speak, he can't walk. And before she could get another word out, the boys interrupted her and said, Mom, stop, it doesn't matter. He's still Cade. Absolutely, boys. You're right. During that visit, they had their own language. They watched TV and even went out on the grass and wrestled a little bit. A few years later, it was on Cade's first day of second grade, and it was our two boys that held Cade's hand and walked him into school. But of course, it was Reese who would take it a step further. He would go and check on Cade in class, and at times use his own recess to make sure Cade was doing well, making friends and fitting in. And I'm sure he had eyes wide open to make sure there were no big kids needing to talk it to for his buddy Cade. Just a few months ago, actually, Reese's second grade teacher at the time contacted us and shared that she was teaching her students what character really means. She recalled that same stories of Cade and Reese and proceeded to tell us that she used Reese as the example of what character in action means. His empathy towards others and his protective nature were two character traits she witnessed while Reese was in elementary school. As his parents, we loved watching that big heart in action. He never changed, not through elementary school and on into junior high and high school. Another trait we loved about Reese is his zest to say yes.
Everything.
Yes. I'm sure all of you as parents can relate, trying to find your child's passion, introducing them to new things, seeing if it was the right fit. But what we loved about Reese is when we would ask, do you want to play soccer? Yes. Do you want to play baseball? Yes. Do you want to play football? Yes. Guitar? Yes. Fishing? Yes. Do you want to play lacrosse like your dad? Yes, yes. Thank God. Do you want to jump off this massive rock into ice cold water?
Yes.
Yep. Or would you like to jump off a ledge 100 feet in the air and swing through the forest? Absolutely. Reese had the zest to say yes to everything, and he couldn't wait to give it a try. In addition to wanting to try it all, Reese also became known to rock the look of whatever sport he was playing. Yep, there is Tiger Stripes. And during flag football, he would spike his hair into a mohawk, wore pink armbands, and wore the under-eye patches that said, game time. Not only did he sport the look, but he would have to modify the gear to make it his own. And after just his first year playing lacrosse, he wanted to get a new stick, to which we said, your stick is fine, you don't need another one. Reese didn't like taking a no. And to his credit, became very resourceful, and without hesitation, he made and sold these cheese trays so he could buy his new gear. And yes, he enjoyed that stick way more because he earned it himself. Reese's identity, first and foremost, was in Christ, of which we'll speak to later. But the second to that was of a great athlete. He made almost every all-star team. He was so proud of this accomplishment, but for us, the consistent theme between all these coaches was why Reese was chosen. Yes, he performed well, but then they would speak about his character, his leadership, ability to lift his teammates, and his respect towards the coaches. Reese loved those signs in the front yard saying he made the team, but we cherish what those coaches would say about Reese. And we still hold those memories close to our hearts.
can't promise I'll be quite as calm as Paul. Reese never liked when I cried, so I feel him right now saying, "Get it together, woman." So, okay, I got it, Reese. I got it together. Okay. Reese is now in 6th grade, continuing with his zest to say yes, playing football and lacrosse, and bringing us just plain joy on a daily basis. It is at this time that his legs started hurting, and our lives, especially Reese's, would be changed forever. Everything changed on February 10th, 2016, when Reese was diagnosed with a rare bone cancer called Osteosarcoma. I didn't even want to say the word today. It was on this day that our perspective on how precious life is changed. Our family dynamic changed. Minute to minute changed, but one thing was consistent. Reese did not change. When we talked about what to say today as a family about this time in his life, I clearly heard Reese, well, not just say, but shout to my heart, "Don't dwell on this, Mom. I'm not cancer." And I agree wholeheartedly, Reese. But because this was such a significant time in his life, we're going to share a few key moments today. A story that is burned into my mind forever was a day that we were driving to Chalk Hospital for treatment. It was very early on, and a wonderful organization called NEGU kept reaching out with unique opportunities to encourage Reese. And that would be thank you to Pastor Eric Reese, because he's in charge of that foundation for his precious daughter. I said to Reese, "Hey buddy, NEGU called with an offer for you to drop the puck at the Ducks hockey game." Reese's answer was simple, "Mom, tell them thanks, but they need to give it to someone who really needs encouragement. They need to give it to the really sick kids." He was calm and resolute in his decision. And as I looked at my son, I realized I needed to honor his wishes. Not because these offers weren't appreciated by Reese, but because, as we said above, Reese didn't change just because this horrible diagnosis came. He was still the protector and still the encourager, even during this horrible battle. So we kindly said thank you to NEGU, but to please pass these opportunities on to someone else. Reese knew instinctively where he found his resolve and strength. It was an internal drive. It was found in his faith. It was found in his family. And it was found in his amazing friends that are here today. Reese, we are so proud that in your greatest time of need, you were still giving it away to others. Reese also was involved in all his medical decisions, as probably Nick knows best. We discussed every scan with Reese. Every treatment was reviewed in detail. We all kept our heads down, and like a finely tuned athlete, Reese kept pushing and pushing, never believing a statistic, and always, always beating the odds over and over again. We have countless stories of his tenacity and resolve, but one stands out in particular. As a matter of fact, when I was writing this part, it was really tough to know what to share, because Reese was also a really private warrior. Like, don't make everyone feel bad. But I think this is important to share. Reese had just completed 9 months of grueling chemotherapy. He had his right knee and femur replaced. He learned to walk again, and he was finally back to being a kid for just a few weeks. So we took a breath, but this breath didn't last longer than a month when Reese started having pain. We immediately discovered our worst nightmare again. Nick actually called me and consoled me on the phone outside for quite some time. And then I got tough and I went in to share the news that there was a tumor in Reese's pelvis. But I didn't stay tough for very long. So quite honestly, all three of us, Paul, Max, and I, were sobbing. The minute Max saw his big brother start crying, the minute Reese saw his big brother crying, he immediately pulled it together and he said, "Max, don't worry, I've done this before and I can do it again." So even in the midst of his own pain, he was still consoling us, protecting us, especially his big brother. Fast forward a few months later, chemo was underway, and Reese decided that yes, he wanted this horrible tumor taken out of his pelvis. It's a horrific surgery, one that was thought over and discussed for hours and hours with our orthopedic surgeon who spoke today, Nick Bernthal. It is a surgery that is not done often on a child. Most would advise against it. But Reese knew the truth, that for survival, you have to do it. Nick has a special relationship with Reese, a mutual respect and trust, and with that came great honesty. Nick didn't sugarcoat how difficult this was going to be, and I remember the conversation something like this. "Reese, you probably won't want to move and will want to stay in bed. You probably won't walk again for months and months. Can you imagine walking without 40% of your pelvis and without a hip socket?" Nick laid out the truth, and Reese was kind of leaning against a table, and he simply said something like, "Well, I get it, I still want to do it." So in the midst of the fear of that horrible surgery day, we saw Reese's resolve. We saw the tenacity and the grit come out yet again. And it was on just day 13, as Max's brother shared, after that very complicated surgery, that Reese was up and walking with the assistance of a walker. I probably shouldn't look at those pictures. I videoed the moment, and I immediately sent it off to Nick and Paul. It seemed within minutes that Nick was racing down the hall to see Reese. It was a moment that we will never forget. It is burned into our soul just as much as that infamous smirk. He didn't just wear the title of Reese is a beast. He literally walked the walk. We can now look back on this journey with great perspective. With shattered hearts and souls, we can now see how Reese's spirit was getting prepared for his battle. It was just in second grade that Reese chose his life verse in his church small group, and most of you heard it today. Joshua 1:9, "Be strong and courageous." Reese was drawn to this verse at just 7 years old. He attached himself to it way back then. And he attached himself to it. It became his identity. Even during his illness, he was never a victim. He never changed. He was still the protector, still the encourager. And when we look back at these last 3 years and 1 month, we see that he was always strong. He was always courageous. He even had this embossed on the back of his shoes. One said beast, and the other said Josh 1:9. Now, with all of this said, when we were writing this tribute for Reese, I had many, many conversations with Reese. I wasn't about to make him mad about what we were going to say today. And I kept hearing him say, "Mom, you've got to be really real, because this wasn't fun. This was horrible." So even though he handled this in beast fashion, it was horrible. He hated this disease. He hated not being in school with his friends. He hated not competing in sports. And he mourned these losses deeply. We actually all did. We are extreme extroverts who felt very trapped at times. But it was Reese, above all of us, that forced himself to not stay in this place for too long. It was Reese who took on multiple new hobbies almost immediately. He took up woodworking and actually built this amazing table for our family room. He learned the coolest of magic tricks, and I'm looking at the cousins, and he couldn't wait to show these to family and friends. He took up archery, which helped him get out that competitive spirit, and he used walking back and forth for hours to get the arrows as his physical therapy. He took up fishing with his friends, and he kissed every fish that he caught. And one of his favorite new hobbies was flying his drone and taking aerial photos. And I hope that when you all walked in, that was Reese's art gallery, and I was always so proud to watch him go out. He wouldn't be feeling well, or he'd just be recovering from surgery. And it would be the next day of coming home, he's like, we gotta get out of this place. Pack up the drone, and he would be hoofing it on those crutches, dripping sweat, to go get the best shots. And I told him, keep doing it, bud, because we are going to have a gallery one day. I didn't think it was gonna be here, but I hope you enjoyed it. So Reese, at the core of his heart, when all of the other passions of his childhood was stripped away, he is truly an artist. And that's why we have Tom here. A creator like our heavenly creator, and he digged deeply into this part of his spirit. We love that we now have his art all over our home, that we can melt away into each piece and see what our Reese's eyes saw. That zest to say yes that we saw so early on carried into even this battle. This is Reese.
So Reese, being the athlete that he is, always looked for ways to keep active. He discovered electric bikes to rent in Huntington Beach just a few months ago. And when we arrived at the shop, we were shocked to see the entire back wall had "Be strong and courageous" written on it. Reese loved this God wink, and we continued on to have one of the best family days we've had in a while. Watching Reese cruise down the beach with sheer joy is a memory we'll never forget. We later recounted this story, and dear friends gifted both of our boys 2 electric bikes. And in true Reese fashion, he would spend hours in the garage customizing his bike. He had to customize it, make it his own. It was not long ago that Reese's lung surgeon, now dear friend, Dr. Jane, called Christy to check on Reese. They had to have a difficult conversation, and after that, she tentatively asked, "How is Reese doing? Is he on any oxygen?" To which Christy answered, "Actually, no, not at all. He's just out riding his bike with his dad." Jane paused and simply said, "Amazing." Again, our Reese was defying all the odds and letting nothing get in the way of him enjoying life. Most importantly, he couldn't wait to share his new interests with his family and friends. His cousins would travel from Arizona all the time. When Reese would hear this, that they were on their way, the planning would begin like he was the ultimate host. And oh, how he would plan. Christy could barely keep up. He would plan the menu, he would plan the fun activities, but what was sweet is when they did arrive, he couldn't wait to hear what was new in their lives. Reese and his 2 other cousins, Sarah and Caleb, affectionately called their little trio the 3 Musketeers. And we were reminiscing about all the fun trips they had made to our home and Reese's ability to plan an entire weekend, taking into consideration everyone's likes and dislikes and interests. And then Sarah said so sweetly, but Tachi, it was never what we were doing that was important. Reese was the party. You're right, Sarah. He is. He's the ultimate host, and to Reese, family always came first. The ultimate host moment came just a mere 48 hours before Reese moved to heaven. Just 4 weeks ago today, we were at a clinic getting a treatment, and Reese was, discussing all of his favorite places to eat in the area. He was astounded to learn that the nurses had never had the Godmother sandwich at Bay City's Deli in Santa Monica. When Reese heard this, he immediately sprung into action and sent me off on a 45-minute drive to buy lunch for the entire nurse staff. On my way to the deli, I received this text from Reese. Okay, 4 godmothers with the works, 3 with mild, 1 with hot. Get meatballs and pesto gnocchi for everyone. I get some bread from home. He loved the bread. Mom wants meatballs and gnocchi. Don't forget to order for yourself. Thank you, Reese. And of course, he had to have a side of mac and cheese. And man, seeing the delight on his face, knowing he shared some delicious food, and sitting there having a picnic in this clinic with the nurses, it was priceless. That was Reese. But I'm devastated to say, this will be the last text I'll ever get from my son. But it warms my heart knowing that even in his toughest days, he continued to feed others and be that ultimate host. This is Reese. Reese is also blessed to have friends that have become like family. To watch Reese's best friends, Blake and Jagger, for 3 years stand by their buddy, encourage him, laugh with him, and even have the intuition to know when Reese needed space, was a beautiful thing to witness. Reese knew he was blessed to have another brother in you too, friends. Thank you, guys. And of course, to all of Reese's friends who are here today, we know you supported him in your own unique way, and it never went unnoticed. So thank you for that.
I got the hard one. Ultimately, the most beautiful relationship Reese has is with his brother Max. Although they shared the same interest, they complemented each other beautifully with very different personalities. I believe Max was one of Reese's great teachers. He was also his partner in crime, his competitor, his confidant, and his best friend. On the night that Reese moved to heaven, it was Max who gave Reese the most selfless gift you can ever give. He let Reese go. It was Max who said, "Go, Reese, be with Jesus, run and be free." Max did what his own mother could not do. I couldn't let go. But he generously and lovingly did this for his brother. This moment to me represents the 15 years that they spent together, that of which an older brother quietly and lovingly took care of his little brother. Max, we are so proud of you. And I also have to say to Max, we can't wait to see what Reese does to bless your life. So hold on tight and buckle up, like the Britons said, because it's going to be big. So in keeping with the realness today that I know Reese is insisting on, we need to share this. We've heard your honest comments. How can you still possibly believe in God after this happened? Yes, we hear you. And yes, we too feel this injustice to a crushing level. Our souls are completely shattered, and they will never be whole again. We will never be the same. How could Reese fight this hard, have this many miracles, defy the odds over 3 years, to then not have the ultimate miracle of Reese's healing on earth? We are shaking our fists to the heavens as well as seeking those answers. And the most painful part of this is we will never know the complete answer. And even if we do, even if we get that answer on this side of heaven, to be honest, it would never be good enough for me. Reese is my soul's twin. He's my soul's twin. And I can't imagine days, let alone years, without him. He joyfully joined me in doing the simplest of tasks on a daily basis. Over these 1,105 days of Reese's battle, I was never apart from him for more than an hour or two. And even though I despised what he was going through, I loved spending every minute with my son. So now, every breath is painful and filled with memories. But there is good news. We do have a faith that got us through our entire lives, and especially these last 3 years. We leaned in hard to our faith. We lived this journey out loud and helped as many as we could. We shared as much of ourselves as we possibly could. And even in this crushing pain, this is what we still know. We will be with Reese again, and heaven has never looked so good. So just had to be honest with you guys. In Psalm 34:18, it says, "The Lord is close to the brokenhearted, and he saves those whose spirits are crushed." So amen to that. When we got the last scans back a few months ago, Reese and I had a heart-to-heart. I shared the horrible news, and unfortunately, he was all too familiar with this conversation. He took it in quietly and asked me my opinion of what he should do. I told him that we had a plan. We thought it was a good plan. No one had ever done it before, and he would once again be the first kid in the world to take on this treatment. But the decision, as always, was entirely up to Reese. He asked, "Mom, remind me, how do I hear what God wants me to do?" I told him the only thing that I know to be true. You need to pray about it, and the Holy Spirit will speak to your gut. We talked for a couple of hours. Reese then had his answer, and again he was resolute and clear in his decision. He said these exact words, because I'll never forget them. "Mom, I don't think I can enjoy my life if I'm not fighting. If I don't do treatment, I will be wondering if I could do more to save my life. Tell the doctors I'll do it." I think within an hour of those words, he was on Xbox with his buddies. I will admit, I exhaled at that moment and was relieved he again made this choice to keep fighting. But then a few moments later, he said, "You know, Mom, I'm not afraid to go to heaven. I only worry about how much you'll miss me." Never have truer words been spoken. I can honestly say The pain is much deeper than we could have ever prepared for. But again, even on Reese's worst day, facing his worst fears, he was only worried about us, especially how much I would miss him. This again is Reese, and we are so proud of you. But Reese knew that even with a strong faith, we would still need to be consoled this side of heaven. He knew that we would still need signs, so we asked him, and he showed up over this last month in extraordinary ways. So much so that we feel Reese has literally written this next part of his tribute. And how, as his parents, could we deny sharing when Reese's messages from the other side of heaven were so loud and clear? First, he showed himself through the most gorgeous sunset we had ever seen. Exactly at the time when Reese moved to heaven, my sister took a photo of what was greeting Reese on the other side. Shortly thereafter, Max was sitting in a chair, tears streaming down his face. Our friend Katie was consoling Max, and she was encouraging him to keep your eyes open, sharing that Reese's spirit is so powerful, so strong, that he would show up in Max's life in ways he would never imagine. Max looked up to Katie, who has an affinity for butterflies in loving memory of her grandmother, and he said, "Like your butterflies?" It was just the next morning that literally billions of monarch butterflies were all over Southern California, and many of you in this room texted us, "It's Reese!" So thank you, Reese. Thank you. That same night when we got home, my sister Amy, who was Reese's Machi, otherwise known as godmother, had a vision of Reese so strong walking up the stairs in our home. When he got to the top of the stairs, he held out his hands in Reese fashion. I know you guys can see him. "Mach, tell my mom I'm okay." And then he was gone. Those of you that know my quiet, sweet sister, she's the opposite of me, will know that this rocked her to her core, and it took her quite a few hours into the next day to share this with us. She said it was undeniably Reese, healed, strong, beautiful, and glowing. So thank you, Reese. The next day, we learned that Reese's friend Molly had a powerful dream. God came to Molly, took her to the hospital, opened the doors to Reese's room, and said, "Molly, it's time that I take Reese to heaven, but don't be afraid. You will see him soon." When Molly woke up that morning before her parents told her the news, she told them, "I already know Reese is in heaven." Thank you, Reese. And we, by the way, were not expecting to lose Reese that night. So it wasn't in anticipation. A couple of days later, my other sister, Reese came to my other sister in a dream where he was surrounded by 3 other people. He dove through an invisible screen, hugged her, and said over and over, "I love you and miss you," to which she replied the same. Thank you, Reese. A few days later, he came to our cousin Emmy in another dream. Here, Emmy was sitting by a window, watching a huge group of kids walk by. As she was watching the kids, one of them left the crowd and ran over. It was Reese in his lacrosse uniform. He knelt down to be at her level, and they touched hands through the screen. He echoed the same words, "I love you, I miss you, Emmy." Emmy shared he was absolutely radiant and glowing, and again, he was healed. Throughout Reese's journey, our dear friend Katie, who spoke today, had always told Reese he had the heart of a lion and how appropriate that his high school mascot was a lion. In her dream, when she leaned over to tell him I love you, he beat her to it, which doesn't surprise me with their relationship. She then proceeded to say how proud she is of his courage. "You're as brave as Daniel," she said, to which he jumped up with excitement and exclaimed, "I met Daniel. Here, let me show you." But as Reese ran off, Katie realized she couldn't follow him. Another heavenly sign. Thank you, Reese. A few days later, a group of our dearest friends were at our home, helping plan our celebration. Amongst the tears, there was some laughter. I went to bed that night feeling so sad that I had actually laughed. The next morning, our dear friend Kimberly, who had no idea I'd been feeling so badly about the laughter, texted me a message. She felt strongly it was from Reese. She said, "Chris, Reese wants you to know he is in the laughter." She proceeded to share with me all the ways that he is delighting in communicating with us. But most of all, it's bringing Reese great joy when we know it's him and we recognize it's him. He is the laughter. After sending me that text of encouragement, Kimberly put her phone down. When she went back and picked up her phone, this photo was surprisingly on her screen. And it just popped up, and we don't know how, but we do know it's Reese. So thank you, Reese. So fast forward a couple of days later, and we're meeting with our friends and musicians today, Kimberly and Tony, who are lovingly doing our music. Every song we chose for today represents Reese, and most of these songs are from our favorite band, For King and Country. And our boys over the years had met them multiple times. Each song is a song Reese either loves or was the soundtrack to this journey. After they left, I was speaking again out loud to Reese and asking if we were choosing the right songs, if it was exactly what he wanted. We wanted today to be perfect for him. It couldn't have been more than a few minutes later that Paul ran up the stairs and answered my question with, "I think Reese approves." He was holding a video message from the band's leaders, the lead singers from For King and Country, sending love, condolences, and encouragement. They ended the video with, "Keep fighting the good fight, we will." Paul, Max, and I, as well as our friends and family, have been overwhelmed with these stories of Reese coming through. And again, we really felt it was him, so we had to share. That his spirit is moving so strongly, and his choice in people to come see has been absolutely perfect. He has delivered messages that have been resting especially hard on my heart. Messages including that he is with our Lord, he is not alone, he is playing and running, he is with friends, he is radiant, he is happy, he is in the laughter, and he is also in the music today.
So you'd think all of these signs would be enough, and it has been a blessing to receive so many signs from Reese. But in the depths of our grief, it wasn't enough. So the night before we were able to see Reese at the mortuary, we prayed out loud and thanked Reese for all these miracles, for showing up so huge just to comfort us. And then Christy did a big ask. She asked, "If you could, Reese, could you please give us a tangible sign to show that you're okay?" That morning, Christy and I go into the mortuary and be alone with Reese, and we're overwhelmed with emotion, of course. We were seeing him so strong and so handsome in his suit. And while we were talking to Reese, I glanced down and saw something tucked
just under his suit vest. I raised my voice and said, "How did that get here? How did that get here?" Christy starts shouting the same thing, so much so the funeral director comes over and sees what's wrong. I pick up the object and said, "How did this get here?" The director calmly said, "Paul, it was the only thing on Reese when he arrived to us. We assumed you put it on his chest." So now I have to back up to let you know what was there. 3 years ago, one of my close friends, Aaron Horvath, gave me a wooden coin. On one side, the coin says faith. On the other, it says fear. Aaron proceeded to share that the coin for him was a constant reminder to lean harder on God during hard times. I kept this coin in my pocket most of the time over these 3 years, and it gave me comfort to know that I can always, always, always choose faith over fear. The night Reese moved to heaven, the coin was in my pocket, as it was much of the time. I did not take it out that night, and I certainly didn't leave it at the hospital. So you can imagine our shock when we see the coin at the mortuary, face side up, tucked under Reese's vest, just above his heart. We were hysterical, and yet thanked our boy for giving us that tangible sign Christy had prayed for. So when we got home that night, we immediately called Aaron and his wife Sue, asking them to come over so we could share this remarkable sign from Reese. As Christy and I were recounting the story, Aaron was totally blown away and grabbed his chest. Then proceeded to say, "Well, guys, that's not the entire story." Aaron shared that night he drove us home from the hospital that fateful night. He was overwhelmed by the despair and sadness in the car, especially with Christy. So he prayed and decided to write a letter to God, not sharing this with us, just asking for a tangible sign. At the top of the letter, it said, "Okay, Reese, you're everywhere, so help me write this. Let's make your mom smile and give her some peace." Aaron proceeded to write a beautiful letter, and a few sentences into it, he actually felt Reese's presence so strongly that he was overwhelmed with emotion. Yes, he was crying in a bar, in a hotel bar. Reese's suggested changes just flowed into Aaron's fingers and onto a letter. One of those changes was ending the letter with, quote, "Reese is a beast, and he's not done. You made him a great athlete who loves magic, so give him the green light to run wild and do some crazy shit." Aaron was so conflicted leaving that language in, considering it was a letter to God. But he knew it was Reese, and so he left it in. But he had to sign off saying, "P.S. Reese made me say shit." When Aaron was sharing this story with us, we were laughing through our tears, and at that last line actually sounds like our Reese. He wanted to run wild and do some crazy stuff. So let's think about this, right? The person that gave me the wood coin 3 years ago, the coin that rarely left my pocket, was the same person that drove us home that night. He was also the person that wrote the letter asking to God for that big tangible sign for us. He wrote the letter not knowing that we were praying for a tangible sign from Reese that very same night. Then that coin is the one that shows up on Reese at the mortuary. Wow. We just received a tangible sign that not only Reese is okay, he is still completely with us. For us, God and Reese answered our prayer in the most miraculous way. It was more than just a God wink. It is undeniable. Even in heaven, you're still looking out for us. Thank you, Reese. And so to honor this undeniable sign, and of course, Reese's caring heart, we want to give each of you a similar wooden coin today as a reminder to choose faith over fear, just like he did his whole life. In a true beast fashion, we want you to give a second coin to share with someone you think could benefit. As Reese taught us early on in this journey, it's always better to give it away to someone else in need.
So when you guys leave today, they'll have the coins there for you, okay, to take to, and they'll be in a little story for you. So there's really not enough time today or words to express our gratitude to the many of you whom are here today. To the doctors and nurses who never gave up and became family. To our friends who lifted us up on a daily basis. To those of you, and there's a many in this room, who took great care of Max when we were not home. To my village of women who spiritually fueled me. To Katie Britton, I'm sorry, there are truly no words to be a sister in this every day. To Reese's Noni, who's my mom, who gave up everything to be with us. And to our family who lives far away, but was here at a moment's notice to surround Reese with love, memories, and adventures, we thank you. So in sharing Reese with you today, we hope there is one message that is resonating with you loud and clear. We have felt Reese telling us this over and over, and hope you are hearing the same thing. Do not use my name in the past tense. Do not say I was. I am still here, and he is. He is still your brother. He is still your grandson. He is still your nephew. He is still your cousin. He is still your best friend. He is still a creator, an encourager, a protector, a lover of life, a host, a believer, a fierce fighter. He is love, and most importantly, he is still our cherished son.
This next song is called Fight on Fighter. It's by For King and Country, which, as we know, was one of Reese's favorite bands. And the Imhoffs chose this song because of what it meant to them during Reese's cancer fight, and that it really represents Reese's unbelievable fighting spirit. And instead of him fighting here now, he now fights for us on the other side of heaven. So we hope that you feel his fighting spirit through this song.
If I could, oh, I would be a hero, be the one
incredible artist here, Tom, has created a tribute, an inspiration to the power of Reese. And if you can see here, it says he is. He absolutely is. Thank you, Reese. Thank you, Tom. It's absolutely stunning. What a beautiful tribute. At this time, before we close out the service, we would like everyone to please rise so we can worship together in one big voice, just like Reese lived, a big, beautiful life.
Waiting here for you.
again, thank you so much for helping the family celebrate Reese today. We're so grateful that you're here. And please remember to continue to pray for them when you think about them, because they would greatly appreciate that. Let's close our service in prayer. Heavenly Father, we are reminded today just how great your love is. For us, for Reese, for the world. And so, Father, thank you for inspiring this celebration, because Reese is still here, because you are still here, living through your people, wanting nothing more than to comfort the world. And so, God, we are grateful for the hope of heaven. We can't wait to see Reese again in that beautiful smile. Just give us strength every day to walk by faith, not by fear. It's in Jesus' precious name we pray. Amen. A few announcements before I adjourn the service. As you heard earlier about Reese and the coin, the family has provided these for you. You'll pick them up on your way out, and they actually have the 2 coins inside for you to use one and to share one. So we really hope that you take them and take on that challenge. Second, in a second I'm going to dismiss you. I'm going to be dismissing the family first, because they can't wait to get down to Central Park, which is 7 miles down the street. No, I'm just kidding. It's just down the stairs where you came in. But there are some amazing, beautiful, artistic grazing tables awaiting all of you. In Reese fashion, there's all kinds of food. So at this time, I would like to dismiss the family and the extended family to go ahead and head down.
Sound asleep and too afraid of what might show up while you're dreaming. Nobody sees you. Nobody will believe you. And every day you try to pick up all the pieces, all the memories, they somehow never leave you. Nobody sees you. Nobody will believe you. God only knows what you've been through. God only knows what they say about you. God only knows how it's killing you. But there's a kind of love that God only knows. God only knows what you've been through. God only knows what they say about you. But God only knows the real you. There's a kind of love that God only knows. You keep a cover over every single secret. So afraid if someone saw them they would leave. But somebody sees you. Somebody will never leave you. God only knows what you've been through. God only knows what they say about you. God only knows how it's killing you. But there's a kind of love that God only knows. God only knows what you've been through. God only knows what they say about you. But God only knows the real you. There's a kind of love that God only knows. For the lonely, for the ashamed, the misunderstood and the ones to blame. What if we could start over? We could start over. We could start over. Oh, for the lonely, ashamed, the misunderstood and the ones to blame. What if we could start over? We could start over. We could start over. 'Cause there's a kind of love that God only knows. God only knows what you've been through. God only knows what they say about you. But God only knows the real you. There's a kind of love that God only knows. God only knows what you've been through. God only knows what they say about you. But God only knows the real you. There's a kind of love that God only knows. God only knows where to find you. God only knows how to break through. God only knows the real you. There's a kind of love that God only knows.
My memory of Reese, it's very vivid. It's very vivid, it's very colorful. I got the honor and the privilege to have Reese in KSG, Kids Small Group. What an amazing opportunity it was to be with this young man, and oh my gosh, the words, the vocabulary just poured out of him. It was so honest, simple, and real. But the memory that just takes me back to that moment is when he was writing his testimony. And in typical Reese fashion, he looked down at the piece of paper. I looked down at the piece of paper, and I just said, Reese, handwriting's a little messy. And he kind of looked at me and he says, it doesn't matter. We'll take care of it later. It's the meaning of what I'm putting on this piece of paper is what is most important. It's my testimony. It's where I've come from and where I'm going to go in my life. It's still with me today about those words. It doesn't matter what it looks like. It's what it represents is my memory of Reese being in my KSG group for a couple of years. We love you, Reese. You're in my heart. You're in my family's heart. You've marked us. You've touched us in so many ways. Your parents are amazing. Your brother is amazing. And we will continue to love them, even though you are here with us always. Thank you, brother.
Well, we've known Reese for, gosh, how many years has it been, Brandon? Probably 10 years.
Yeah.
Right when they joined, they became close with the Britton family and joined our small group, and the Imhoffs have been in there ever since. And I have so many wonderful memories of Reese. Max was in our KSG group.
Yeah.
We had good memories of Max during that. But, Reese was always a brave kid, always a fearless kid going after stuff, but he cared so much for others, as they mentioned today, that he would be cautious trying to protect other people. So we have, one of my favorite memories of him is that we went on a camping trip for small group. I think it was one of the Imhoffs' very first camping trips.
Yeah, probably their first.
Setting up the tent was an adventure, and these guys climbing trees. And we had the bright idea that we would go hiking up in Holy Jim Canyon.
Looking for the waterfall.
So we want to go up to Holy Jim Falls. We never actually made it that far, but we found, we found a couple turnouts. We wanted to go in there. We had the dog, all sorts of fun stuff. So it was Brandon, Blake, Britton, Caitlin, Max was there, and Reese, Avery, Callahan. I think that covers everybody. I don't know if Morgan was there. So we found a little waiting area and wanted to go out there. And of course the water's cold and the kids are in there. Christy is making sure that nothing happens to Reese and Max. Stay back from the side. And they're like, whatever. And they're trying to get in the water. So the boys are all walking around, and the whole joke was everybody's about to fall in this cold water. And everyone's real cautious, real cautious. Reese is trying to make sure everybody's okay. And he gets everybody kind of situated, and Reese steps and hits a slippery rock. And this kid goes full horizontal in the air. Feet go up, boom, all the way in the water and completely submerged himself.
Yeah, that's true.
And everybody had a little bit of a shocked look on their face. But then, as soon as he popped up with the big smirk, and then everybody started laughing, and then all the kids piled on him in the water, and then everyone was soaked. Didn't care if the water was cold.
No, not at all.
Everybody had a good time. So that's always a fun memory because he cared about others, but yet he went headlong into danger and it worked out good for him. So good memories of him, coming to the house and maneuvering our crutches, or our stairs on his crutches like a veteran. It's like a spider monkey or something, just hauling up the stairs and
that's true.
all the adventures. So, I'm going to miss sending notes to him on Instagram, keeping up, and I think I may still send him some notes because he's still on my mind and in my heart, and he taught me a lot in the time that he was here, and I admire his fight, and I admire his spirit, and I know that I'll carry it with me my entire life. So thank you for everything, Reese, and I look forward to talking to you more.
Hi, Paul. Hi, Christy and Max. First of all, I want to let you know that you're so special to us and that we love you. And I will never forget the first time that I met you and, of course, your beast. He truly, truly is one of the sweetest boys that I've ever been around. And even as a little guy, the way that he would come into KSG, again, with this humbleness and with this ability to observe and see what was happening and see where he was needed. And I love today that someone said Reese did not need to be the main attraction. And he didn't. He was very happy to share the attention, the limelight. But one of my sweetest memories of Reese happened regularly in KSG because we would break up into groups and he would sit at my table and he would pray. And he would pray for his family, sincerely. He would pray for his brother in sports, and he'd pray for his parents, sincerely, with a deep, deep faith. And I will always remember Reese for the way that he loved God and prayed for God. Prayed for all of you. We love you.
Hi, Christy, Paul, and Max. We just wanted to let you know that the three of you are just truly amazing. This celebration today was beautiful, and your beautiful Reese has touched so many, and it's so beautiful for us to see that.
It is amazing how much composure you all had in the situation and in the celebration. It was the most amazing celebration I've ever seen. Thank you for letting us come and witness this and witness what Reese has done in such a short time in his life and touched so many souls.
We love you both, all three of you, and hope to see you soon.
Hi, Imhoffs. This was the most beautiful service and day. You know that we love you so much. Every detail of your love, of Reese, his creativity is all here. And we are just so honored to be your friends, and we're your village forever. We love you guys so much, and inspired daily by you. And Kate, you want to say anything?
Love you.
Love you. Luce?
Love you.
Love you guys. We're honored to live across the street from you, and such an amazing day, and God's hand was all over it. So
All over it.
we are here for you. We love you guys.
Love you.
Love you.
Hi, Chris, Paul, and Max. Well, as you can see, only half of the Callahans here, but the better half are here with you. We just want to tell you how much we love you, how much today has meant to us, how special it has been to honor someone we all love so much. We want you to know we are here for you today, tomorrow, and always. Reese holds such a special place in our heart and will always hold a special place in our heart. We love you so, so much.
And we're praying for you, and I love you so much, and we'll always be here for you no matter what happens in your life.
Aw, thank you. Love you, Imhoffs.
Hi, Paul, Christy, and Max. I was just wanting to share one funny memory I have of having Max and Reese stay with us. Christy and Paul, you were going to Arizona for a little business venture, and we had the honor of having Max and Reese spend the night. And they showed up, and we had stocked up the fridge. We knew the Imhoff boys were coming and they would be hungry, and we even had your favorite foods and everything. They didn't touch it. We went out to dinner and they ordered off of the kid menu, and then it became painfully obvious that you two had had a conversation with your boys and told them not to eat us out of house and home, and we were so disappointed. We finally had eaters in our home and they ate almost nothing, but it was such a sweet, sweet time for us, and we were so honored because, as we all know, you didn't leave your children ever, and you left them with us for an entire night, and we were so honored to have them. We love you.
And we did break them, and they did order double cheeseburgers.
Eventually, we broke them down.
We broke through the holds, but we just want you guys to know how much we love you and appreciate you, and how much we've been and have been and will continue to be inspired by Reese and his strength, and we just love you, and we're here for you.
Absolutely.
You want to say anything?
Our prayers go out to you guys. Just stay strong and just know that we love you and we're always here for you.
Good job, Betty.
And I remember that when we went on a small group trip all together, Reese was by the river and he was trying to jump across the rocks, but he slipped and he fell, and then everyone was laughing. He was laughing. And then everyone was so worried, but he was just laughing, and then he did that famous grin.
And then everybody else was okay getting wet, right? Because Reese kind of got them all ready for that.
Yeah.
Love you guys.
Love you.
Love you.
Oh, Imhoffs, we're here today with a heavy but full heart, full of love. We carry so many memories of Reese and each one of you in our lives. We love you. Today turned out absolutely beautiful, and I think Reese would have loved it.
Yeah, and we are grateful that you've included us and the story of the coin as part of the service today. It was very inspiring to a lot of people, and I'll never forget it. And I love all the fun stories. Those were great. And my fun story with Reese is still working the scorer's table for lacrosse, and remembering that we kept screwing up the score, at least I did, and Reese thought it was so funny, laughing, and I'll always remember those couple hours where we had such a great time, because I think that's who Reese was. He was a good time. He was the party. So.
And then also the strength that you three had up on stage, I think it's going to be something that carries many, many people through a lot of hard times. So on the count of three, we're going to say we love you. 1, 2, 3.
We love you. Hi guys, it's the Milos. I just, on behalf of all of us, wanted to say how much we love you. We love all of you, and we're heartbroken to be here today, but of course also grateful that we are able to be here, and that we have able to meet you years ago to honor Reese and to honor the relationships we've all had with you guys. So thank you for including us, Christy, Paul. It was an honor to do the music for Reese, and I did feel his spirit come through for sure. And I know my whole family was moved from everything you guys said, because we've already talked about it. It's very emotional and very painful, but also very uplifting and spiritual and hopeful too. So really great job today, and just know that we're here for anything and everything you need, and plan on a lifetime together with you guys. So I think Trey wanted to say something.
Yeah, we're so grateful for you guys, and it's terrible that Reese's life had to end so early, but he was such a light in our lives and to everyone around him, and he was just such an incredible kid. And just know that we love you guys so much, and we care for what you're going through, and that we're here if you need us.
And he lives on. He lives on. We think of him every day, and we'll never stop. So just know that he is forever with us in our hearts and inspiring us on. So we love you guys.
All right, on 3, he is.
Okay.
1, 2, 3.
He is.
Where to find you. God only knows how to break through. God only knows the real you. There's a kind of love that God only